Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Generational Gap. This is Robert, your resident Gen Xer. And way over there on the far side is John, our
Right
resident
here.
millennial. And then tonight we brought ourselves a guest on. We've got Wyatt. Wyatt is from. Can you give me the name of the channel that you do? What is it? The
Roundtable decision.
Round Table Decision. I like it. It's a
Yes.
good name. It's a very
Yeah, I like
interesting
that
name.
too.
Yeah. So we've got some show tonight. We've got some things to talk about because it's actually turning into a hell of a news week. I think
Yeah.
it's been picking up. It's been taking some tumbles here and there. We can't shake Mueller. We can't shake all of that, but we also can't shake the tweets. So it's it gets a little. It's a great back and forth that's going on there. But we've got some issues in Venezuela too. I think we really need to talk about that because
hmm
I don't love the direction that we're considering going, or the direction that they're asking people to go, and the direction that some people have already gone. And then maybe we'll take a little journey down Facebook lane. I think we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the deplatforming and craziness that's going on with Facebook, our
Yep.
favorite social media site. And then, if nothing else, if we have some time, we might touch on some interesting news from the porn world, which is exciting. Who doesn't love porn? Raise your hand if you hate porn. That's what I thought.
Yep. Hey, we got Cameron Michael and Cold as Ice Bear in the
Cold as
chat.
Ice Bear.
What's up, guys?
Nice. And Cameron, how you doing, Cameron?
Hey,
Good to
Cameron
see you
Michael.
folks showing up for the show tonight. So,
Definitely.
John, in your life, anything exciting other than not drinking a beer for 3 days? I'm
Well,
stunned. I
I
think
mean, I
that's an
actually just grabbed
announcement.
one,
Oh, you fuck.
but
All right.
this is actually the last one in the fridge, so I'm not gonna be able to get more until tomorrow.
Don't they call
So,
Coors Light the silver bullet, or they used to?
yeah, I mean, is it? Yeah, they do. But is it even really beer? I mean, it's mainly just like water that kind of tastes like
It's a
beer,
delivery.
maybe.
It's a delivery medium for alcohol for you. It's really all it appears to be. Not that you're a functioning alcoholic.
I think I function pretty
I
well.
think you're more of a dysfunctioning alcoholic. All right, so enough about you, John, because you
Yeah,
suck.
near beer, exactly as Cold as Ice Bear says, is near beer.
Near
It
beer.
wants to be beer, it's just not quite there.
I wish I were a beer. I wish I were a beer.
Right?
But does it? Don't the cans still? Do the cans have the blue mountain? The mountain that turns
Yeah,
blue when it's cold?
yeah. As you can
I
see,
mean,
mine is currently cold.
who
I
needs to
just
be a
got
quality beer when you have a fucking can that will turn blue when it's cold? I mean,
and that
really,
is a cool idea. Yeah,
right?
I wish more
If
beers did that.
Right, if only it had been done by a better brand. Well,
Right?
I take that back. I want to say Budweiser did something like that for a little while.
I don't know. I don't know.
It was
I don't
yeah, it
drink
was after
Budweiser
the
though.
Born on Date run that they did, all that promotional stuff
Yeah,
they did.
yeah.
That was the next thing. So, enough about beer, John. God, let it go. So Wyatt, you are still in school, which is awesome. You're in school right now. You are gaining an education. Would you consider yourself educated?
In some ways, I mean, there's always room to go for more education, or to go further. But I think I have a good education so far with my schooling and events.
Now, if I may ask, do you attend a public school, a charter school, or a Montessori school, a private school?
Private school. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a private school, and
Okay.
it's associated with the International Baccalaureate program, but it's a private school.
Awesome. Very
Nice.
nice.
And yes, Midget B, tonight he is gaining an indoctrination. We are going to try and give him a pill. Hopefully he'll take the pill.
Hopefully, it'll be a red one and not a blue one.
You know, you got to ask yourself sometimes, why, oh, why didn't I take the blue pill?
Certainly would be easier. It's true.
So, Wyatt, if you don't mind, take a couple of minutes. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and what brought you to YouTube. I know that this is associated with school, but if you could give us an idea of that, give our listening audience some idea of where you're coming from.
So yeah, I mean, I've always watched YouTube and just more of just the videos what I found interesting. But as I've gotten like older and more like focused on politics or just news in general, I kind of got aggravated with, I guess you could say, mass media news,
Hmm.
regardless of what platform it was. So I kind of turned to YouTube and found YouTubers what I found more interesting or I thought were more fair. So I kind of started on YouTube in that way because what I watch is a very political more than non-political on YouTube, which to some people might be a little strange. But and then as far as my own YouTube channel, it is a school project. Or it started that way, but I plan to grow from it being school. But so that's kind of how I started on YouTube itself.
And what was the premise behind the school project?
The premise was to make educational videos. So like my first videos were on like philosophy about like how to be happy or what is happiness. And then I did one on like the United Nations, and I had a documentary I made in ninth grade, I believe it was, when Black Lives Matter was popular. I just had a documentary
Hmm.
about that, and it isn't really supposed to be political, but I've tried to like stretch the boundaries a little bit with the school and with the IB because they don't really encourage it, but I think it should be talked about because I don't want to have something which one side only. I'm trying to encompass everything with the
Nice.
videos I have, but
Gotcha.
it slows the process down when you're trying to explain what you're doing.
Right. I think that's important, though, is to understand, even if you don't agree with what someone says, I think it's very important to understand why they think the way that they do and what the actual points are, where they're coming from. Because, I mean, if you don't understand that, then how can you have your own views if you're not, listening to everything?
Right.
And not only that, but no side has all the answers.
Right. And
You know,
how
you need
can
to.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, yeah, you just need to pick the good things from each ideology or each, political point of view and kind of make that into your own.
Hmm.
Well, and that's it's very important. What you said there, John, is from the simple fact that also that I mean I can't validate someone's opinion or someone's belief, their ideology, unless I understand how they got there. Like I need to know why you think the way you do,
Hmm.
because your opinion has no validity if you're just barking in the wind, right? If it's
Or,
just staunch belief with
yeah,
no foundation.
right. If you're just parroting back what you've been told, then, you agree with that and without it thinking about it, thinking it through. So Wyatt, we actually have a question from in the chat for you. Who are some of the ones that turned you on first in YouTube to the more political side? You said you watch a lot of political channels. So who are some of the people that you watch, and who are some of the first?
The first one would probably be Matt Christensen. Was probably the first person I
Hmm.
really listened to because he had really consistent type of videos. And then from there was like a YouTube channel called Actual Justice Warrior, and he does like
Okay,
short
yeah,
type of videos, but they're very on topic, and he seems to be fair on what he says. Like he had a good one on Amazon, so I listened to him and channels like his, like Tim Pool
hmm,
or Tim Cast is the YouTube, but
yeah,
Mhm.
he I listened to him quite a bit as well, and he was one of the first I listened to. So
yeah. Those are both great. I'm not so familiar with Actual Justice Warrior. I've seen, I think, a couple of his videos. But yeah, Matt is great. We've had him on the show back in January, so that was really fun. And then yeah, Tim Pool is great. He's amazing.
So, Wyatt, what one final question for you? What was it that? What do you think it is that pulled you into politics, and or bred an interest in you for that? And the reason I ask is because one of the concerns that I have in the present day is that your generation, being Gen Z, is basically what you fall into. Is I worry that they're not focused on politics like they need to be. They're more focused on social justice and social politics than they are on the actual politics that run this country that they can have an impact on. So what brought you or interested you in the political game?
I don't think it started in politics directly at first. It was more from a philosophical standpoint. Because what my school does is there's a class called TOK, which is Theory of Knowledge. And then before that, they kind of try to like introduce you to it. But essentially, it's just studying philosophical discussions. So it kind of started as like questions like what is happiness, and then it developed more into politics, because politics has a lot of the issues where you could where the sides debate from essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you say like the social concerns, I would say that a lot of my friends or my peers at school do tend to fall in that crowd, because politics isn't necessarily what they're interested in. They're more interested in how the social dynamics or how people interact with each other.
Right.
So it's like I guess you could say they're more focused on identity politics than actual like viewpoints of people.
Right. And it's
Yeah,
ironic.
100%.
It's ironic too, because ultimately they're going to need actual politics to make changes in the social identity war that they're fighting. I mean, that's ultimately where it's going to channel to. You know, we need to, when they start talking about the Internet Bill of Rights and things like that, these are things that are going to have to be dealt with from a politician's standpoint, from the government standpoint, if that's what their ultimate goal is. So you would think that they would be less into identity politics and more into the actual workings of how to make change happen. And I think that this social pressure can only go so far. I mean, it does affect Washington. It does affect politics somewhat. But if you're not going to get yourself embroiled into the politics of it, from that side, you're never going to get the right kind of justice that you're looking for, I don't think. It's a kind of an interesting dichotomy to me. But I'm glad to see that, again, I'll every time I see something, see a younger person that is actually, looking at the political arena and trying to understand how it works and what it's doing to this country and what it does to us as individuals and citizens. I have to give you a big high five on that. And it's like, that's important. That's good progress, in my opinion. I don't know that there's enough young people out there to have these conversations with. So I'm glad you're on board. But that being said, let's talk politics. Let's talk news, politics. It all wraps around the Orange Man. The world revolves around our world revolves around the Orange Man. Right, John?
Apparently, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what most of the news cycle is all about right now.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah.
What is Michael Vega? I don't even know what that's supposed to say.
Yeah, there's too many stars. I have no idea.
Right? I mean, when you redact that much of it.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
So the news week has been blowing up. As far as the Orange Man, one of the big things though that's going on is Venezuela, and I know we want to talk about that a little bit. And they kind of one hand washes the other. The coup, which I don't know, do we call it a coup? Tinchi asked this question in Discord earlier today. He's like, should it be considered a coup when it's potentially a fraudulent election? Is that still a coup that's going on there with Guaido trying to put himself in power? But earlier this week, what was it? It was either Wednesday or Thursday. Venezuela is kind of asking for military help from somewhere out in the big bad world, right? So what do we do, John? Is that something that we can't do that, right?
I mean, I'm staunchly anti-interventionalist, so no, sorry. I'm not interested in doing anything over there that because we've been influencing their politics, whether it be by giving them money or taking out people we don't like. We've been doing that for a long time, and obviously it's a large reason why they're as fucked as they are now. Um, so I think we should just kind of take a hands-off approach on it. I know that I read something that say that there were Cuban troops there, which is interesting.
Right.
Um,
Apparently, Cubans have sent some people, some military over there, but they're not the only ones.
no, no, there's apparently Russians as well, but
Right.
I've not really read anything that verifies that.
Well,
At least somewhere that I would trust.
I've from the readings, different news articles, the constant thing is that Putin supports Maduro, but us getting involved militarily, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that kind of smells like Vietnam to me. Like this is, because
The
this has got
proxy war.
this has got police action written all over it, right? You
Oh
know,
yeah.
um, Wyatt, have you seen much about what's going on with Venezuela? Have you seen enough to form an opinion on what we should do or not do?
Yeah, I've been reading around it. It's the information seems somewhat confusing for now as far as like what is really going on. But I'm with you as far as if we should get involved. I don't think we should because every time we do get involved, it's more risk than reward, especially for the
hmm
United States, but even for the country itself. Because even the countries we give aid to a lot and fully, and we've helped the country, we've really hindered them once we finally left. Because their
hmm
economy started to rely on U.S. And then once the U.S. left, thinking that they were okay, they really weren't. It was like a false, a false pleasure, or I can't think of the word, but like a
Well,
false
it's
sense
kind
of security.
it's kind of a give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, and he'll feed himself forever. We were just giving them fish, and they never learned how to fish themselves. So as soon as we stopped giving them fish, they started getting screwed.
Right.
If I didn't know any better, I would think you two are trying to say that we don't spread democracy very well.
I don't think that we should. I
Oh,
think we should fix our own country
right.
before we start
Maybe
worrying about what everyone else is doing.
maybe we should figure out how it works here before we try and take it
Yeah.
other places. I don't know. Is that a thing? Do
I
you?
mean, it is the Venezuelans' responsibility to fix their own country. However, I mean, obviously they're having like we see in the chat there that Russia's there, Cuba's there, so they're not fixing it on their own at this point. They're
Well,
having help from one source or another. But
right.
I still don't
Well,
think that we should bother.
the real issue with Cuba and Russia being there is that they're supporting the existing leadership.
Yeah.
They're not supporting Guaido. They're supporting Maduro and all the bullshit that he's been doing. I mean, the country's been in a spiral ever since he took over. Um, and, so when we look at, like Russia's the big one for me. I mean, Cuba, I
hmm
mean, we threaten them. What are we going to do? We're going to put back all the sanctions that we took off of Cuba, right? Uh,
And they'll be okay. Yeah.
right. So they'll just go back to where they always were. But this to me says that now that Cuba is getting in bed with Russia to a certain extent, or it's an avenue for them to get back in bed with Russia. And then with Russia there, you know, okay, if we're supporting Guaido and Russia's supporting Maduro, are we not laying the groundwork for, an escalation of a Cold War or even
hmm
something more drastic? But then today, our illustrious leader has a phone call with Vladimir Putin, over an hour on the phone. And one of the discussions was about Venezuela. And our president walked away and understand that even higher ups in Russia have said that they support the Maduro regime in Venezuela. comes off the phone call and says Russia doesn't want to have anything to do with Venezuela. They just want everyone to be okay. So if you sent people to Russia, the reports are pretty consistent that this happened. Advisors, because they said Russia said that they were advisors. I don't know why you sent soldiers to be advisors.
Right.
But if they sent that and they support Maduro, or Maduro, is it Am I saying it again?
Maduro, yeah.
How does our president come off that phone call and say that they are staying out of this?
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I didn't really see much about the phone call, so I can't really say too much about it.
Let's let him say something about it. What if Mr. Trump himself said something about it?
What if he tweeted about it?
No.
Oh, hey, Jay Edgar's in the chat.
No, we'll listen to what he has to say right from his own mouth.
Very good talk with President Putin, probably over an hour, and we talked about many things. Venezuela was one of the topics, and he is not looking at all to get involved in Venezuela, other than he'd like to see something positive happen for Venezuela.
Okay, you heard that, right? He is not looking at all to get involved with Venezuela. Yet, all reports since this situation has occurred have pointed to Russia being directly involved. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know how Trump works in those kind of deals where he'll give praise to someone that he's against if he's trying to work with that person. We went over this with the Kim Jong-un talks when he was, praising Kim Jong-un, even though obviously he's a horrible person. So I don't know if it's something like that, but that's the only thing I can think of. Well, it's clear that he's, in there to interfere.
Right. So I'm just going to call it out. When our illustrious leader says that, all I can think is fake news. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, in a way, yeah. In a way, you're right. Is what I'm saying. In a way, you're right. Obviously, he's not giving the entire truth, which, a lot of the times you can't. But
I'm going to extrapolate. Both of you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if he is spouting fake news, doesn't that make him an enemy of the state?
He's not a journalist, to be fair.
I don't know. Doesn't he? Shouldn't he be like the legitimate source of news we get? He's the fucking president. He knows everything, right?
Yeah.
And no fake news from him, right?
Oh yeah, does he lie? Of course he does.
There it is, John. There it is.
I've never said he doesn't lie.
They've been doing a tally. They said he's up to over 10,000 lies since his presidency began. There's
It's not bad.
It's not? Okay.
He just talks a lot more than other presidents. They lie just as much.
So Midget says he says, I am generous enough to allow him to mean that they don't want to send troops in a military intervention. Now, this is just me, devil's advocate, but if you send anybody militarily over there, which it has been said / shown potentially that they did, you're already seeking military intervention.
I don't think that's the same thing, because if you look at the American Civil War, both the British and the French sent over advisors to both sides, because more like observers. They were coming here to see what was going on, to report back. That's not military intervention from either of those countries, though.
Part of what they said he sent was weaponry.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, you got to keep those people protected, right?
So that sounds like military intervention, especially since some of these guys were just soldiers, not fucking advisors. It wasn't like he sent 3 generals over there. He sent.
Well, you don't send a general over there.
Well, you know what I mean. Right?
Yeah, you would just send special ops guys, or you don't send fucking intelligence guys.
You don't send troops. Guys. You don't send troops, right? And you sure as fuck don't send weapons, right? I'm just putting it out.
We can't really. I can, or you and I can. The three of us can. Anyone else can, but our government can't really condemn them for that. because we do it all the time, constantly, sending weapons where they shouldn't really be.
Yeah.
So I mean, the government, our
right.
government can't condemn them for that, but I mean, obviously, we as citizens can.
And I'm not going to complain about them doing it. The only thing I'm going to complain about is when Trump has Putin's dick in his mouth and he's talking this shit that doesn't sound right at all. You know.
Yeah.
But continuing on, because he touches on a couple of other things, which I thought was kind of fun.
Mr. President, did you address the election meddling issues that came up in the Mueller report with Mr. Putin today?
We discussed that he actually sort of smiled when he said something to the effect that it started off as a mountain and it ended up being a mouse, but he knew that because he knew there was no collusion.
You remember Tenchi posted something in Discord, which I loved. It's like, between the two of them, they determined Mueller was right. There was no collusion.
Right.
Did they collude on that answer?
They got their story straight, you know. So yeah, Wyatt, you have any thoughts? We're kind of leaving you in the dark there.
Yeah, please jump in, interrupt us.
Yeah,
do your thing.
Yeah, please do interrupt.
I like it, and I like your lighting scheme. It's a good color for you.
Yeah, I was just thinking of what y'all are saying and listening to your views on that topic. But I think that any troop involvement or any involvement in general is essentially declaring not necessarily war, but your stance on the issue. So it's kind of like with Putin sending his generals, or not generals, but his advisors, he's declaring his stance on what he views in Venezuela. So if the U.S. does the opposite, then essentially you are causing a Cold War type of a potential Cold War at least. So it's kind of like providing the U.S. stance on the issue, and I would rather there not be the U.S. stance and just let it be what it has to be.
Now, we have to bear in mind that we're still a part of the United Nations. So when we,
unfortunately,
right. So when we being a part of that, the money aside, how much we contribute, blah blah blah. When it comes to a situation where the UN needs to get involved, are we still able to just bow out and say no? You know, I mean, can we take that stance when we're one of the leaders of the United Nations?
Well, so yes, we're one of the leaders of the United Nations, but we should let the United Nations as an institution decide how to deal with it, as opposed to just kind of making an executive decision and then hoping that everyone else in the UN follows along. That's kind of how we've been operating for the past couple of decades.
But if
because the U.S. has kind of been the forefront of the United Nations in a lot of ways, because they've kind of been the one to lead causes on different issues. So like when the U.S. pulled out of the Paris Accords, there is a reason that the United Nations got all crazy, was because the U.S., even though we weren't necessarily focused on CO2 emissions or whatever else, it was still a big anti-UN move when the U.S. has been very for the United Nations.
Yeah, it's, that feeds into my minor conspiracy theory that Trump is literally trying to turn our allies against us. I know he's not. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, like nice to what end was my point. To what end?
Because
why would he?
Because if you've got China and you've got Russia, you've got the bulk of the population of the world.
No, they don't like us either.
Oh, but they do.
No.
When they're behind closed doors.
Does this go on? Does this tie into your conspiracy theory that Trump's going to delay the election and become dictator for life?
Oh, you don't expect that's going to happen still?
No, I don't.
Just wait. Just don't change the channel. Just wait.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
All right.
We'll see what happens.
They did ask him another question. Okay, so they just asked him about collusion, right? So he talked about it, or the Russian meddling in the. You notice how he turned it to the Mueller report and the collusion, right? Okay, he didn't answer that question. He didn't talk about the meddling in the election,
right?
Whatsoever. So Pretty much that's what it was.
Did you
We
tell him
started
not to
off-
meddle, Mr. President? Did you tell him not to meddle in the next election?
Excuse me, I'm answering this question. You are very rude. So we had a good conversation about many different things, okay?
Did you tell him not to meddle in the next election?
We didn't discuss that.
So that final question, did you tell him not to meddle in the election?
I love his answer.
We didn't talk about that. Every time he's asked about that, he dodges it. He doesn't want to touch on it. Now,
well, I mean, it's kind of like when you're slinging shit at each other for so long, then you can say, hey, why are you slinging shit at me? Well, then it's obviously going to be brought up that, hey, you're slinging shit at me too. You know what I mean? So they'll start to air their dirty laundry if, like, hey, don't meddle in our elections. And they'll be like, hey, we don't know what we've done over there. We don't know what, we've done in other countries. Or we know a lot of the things we've done in other countries, but not everything.
well,
right?
well, that's just it, though. I mean, there's a difference between what you know and what you don't know. Like, I understand that countries do this all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we caught them doing something. So it would behoove our president to address that issue with their leader. Is that wrong to assume that should happen?
Well, I mean, Russia has a much tighter control over their media, so it'd be a lot more difficult for their population to find out about, something that the U.S. did in Russia or something that even the Russians did here.
Right. And I'm not saying it makes it okay. What I'm saying is
No.
we found out.
Yeah.
I would expect someone to call us out on our shit if they found out about it, right? Wyatt, you'd expect that? John, you'd expect that? Call us out on our shit, right?
In an ideal world, yes. But that's not how the world actually works, unfortunately.
Well, if you've got the balls, you will, right? I mean, Kim Jong-un would call us out because he's got the balls to call us out if we did something like that or if we got caught doing something like that.
Well, that's the thing. It's not about balls. It's about relations and it's about global trade.
Yeah, but you don't have to have good relations with him. The worse your relations with Trump, the better off you are in his eyes.
That's not true.
It seems to be. I mean, if you're, he wants to, I don't know. He wants to make peace so hard that he's friends with people that would literally be considered enemies of America. Right?
Yeah, I don't think he's friends with Russia or with China
from what he says, right?
And I've explained to you a few times about how politics, especially in Asia, work.
Yeah, John, we can't go by how politics in fucking Asia work. We got to go.
Well, we can when we're talking about Asian countries.
We got to talk about how what the man says. What the man says. These are the words he's putting out to the American people. So if he's not getting tight and friendly with these folks, as he says he is, then we should know that so that we don't sit around with this speculation
he's trying to
fucking America over.
He's trying to improve relations with countries that we have very little relations with.
Okay.
That is the important part.
Right.
And with, you're saying he wants to turn our allies against us. No, he's trying to hold them accountable and make them finally pay the fair share that they need to pay to the UN and to NATO so that they can hopefully start defending themselves and, build up their own military so we can close our bases down over there, which I would love. That would be amazing.
Well, one of these days you'll be able to answer the question to me, why with our allies we use a stick and with our enemies we use diplomacy as opposed to diplomacy across the board with everyone?
Because not everyone responds to the same kind of diplomacy. I mean, the European Union is not used to being talked down to or condescended to or made to feel like they're not important.
Hold on. That's the problem, John. Diplomacy comes in various forms, depending on who you're dealing with. That's diplomacy. That's the nature of diplomacy. You alter it to who you're dealing with through diplomatic...
Right, that's what he does. That's what he does. That's why he's not consistent.
There's a difference between a stick and diplomacy, John. There's a definite difference.
The stick is definitely used in diplomacy, just like the carrot.
Not when you're using the stick to beat somebody about the head and shoulders and give you money that you think you're owed. I mean,
not to us. Not to us.
Well, you know what I mean. But okay, you're not paying enough. Fucking get to paying your fair share. I'm gonna go over here and talk to this asshole and make him feel like he's the top of the king of the world.
I think it's more like kind of like a stern father figure who's, trying to help you learn how to get your life together. But when you just want to sit around and, eat potato chips and on the couch and play video games, you know what I mean? It's not coming from a place of like, like we're going to do something to you. It's more like, well, we're just going to stop supporting you.
Do we really want an EU with daddy issues? I mean, come on.
They've already got mommy issues.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they've already got mommy issues with Angela Merkel. So.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that we're as diplomatic as we could be with the rest of the world as we are being with our enemies. That feeds into me, my thoughts on the good old days. Robert, think about how intransigent European establishment is to diplomacy. Diplomacy is diplomacy. If you enact diplomacy, diplomacy is diplomacy. It is what it is. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. If you're doing it in a diplomatic way, that's one thing. If you're doing it in a shitty way, it's another. Well,
see, the EU is not, like I said, is not used to, they're not used to being held to account for the things that they do and say. They're not used to, for like consequences, basically. The politicians, is what I'm talking about. And so Trump is doing that to them, and they don't like it. They don't like being held to account. They want to be the big boys all the time, and he's not letting that happen.
So then that goes back to Venezuela. What do we do about Venezuela? That to me says that diplomacy is not going to work with Venezuela. This is one where we're going to have to use the stick in some way or other, right? I mean, how do we?
Or we just not do anything other than like vocal support.
Yeah, but the downside, I posted an article in Show Suggestions. I don't know if you saw it. That talks that Trump is having everyone lay out his options, and he's including he's including military options in this. I'm like, no.
Well, of course, you should never take that off the table. It should never be off the table completely. It should just be a last resort, not the first one.
I think all discussions about what we do about Venezuela need to be taken off the board if we are going to walk away from intervening there. I mean, why discuss how we're going to handle what's going on in Venezuela, how we solve the problem, as opposed to just don't fucking get involved. Stick to focusing here. Create more jobs. Lower taxes, right? I mean, why do we need to look at all the options that are on the board? Venezuela's not a threat to us. Have you read anything that says Venezuela is a threat to us?
It is not. It's never a good idea to take any options off the table. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen just because it's on the table.
Yeah, I think it's more for the United States, the social or the aspect of what the world is going to think of the U.S. move. So if we do nothing, I think U.S. as a whole is concerned about its reputation more than trying to fix what's in the United States. And that's an issue within itself, but that goes back to like how we treat our allies different than our enemies. Because I think Trump is trying to treat his enemies in a way so that they become closer. And he doesn't treat his allies the same way because he thinks they're already his allies. So he doesn't need to speak to them as much.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just this intervention in anything, but I don't know. If he took the same tack with Venezuela as he does with Europe, then I don't know. But of course, as Midget says, because I'm a fucking cuck apparently, which is a shit thing to say. Diplomacy to the EU is a checkers game, but it's not. Diplomacy is fucking diplomacy, and any idiot,
no.
Any idiot that doesn't know how to pursue diplomacy and can't figure out how to be diplomatic with a country is the fucking idiot.
Well, he's not talking about the checkers game. He's talking about checkers deal.
I understand because it's got a capital C and a Q in it. I understand
okay,
what he's
but you
referring
said
to.
it's like a checkers game.
The main part of that is I'm a fucking cuck again. It's another fucking insult from the midget factory.
The midget factory. The approaches to people because things haven't been working. Right, exactly what midget says. The most recent thing he says.
Hasn't been working for who?
Haven't been working for us. Yeah.
How are things not working for us when they're in fucking Europe? The only thing that matters when it comes to Europe, when it comes to Asia, when it comes to fucking South America, to anybody, is trade. And if we can be diplomatic and manage to keep trade going, what the fuck they do in their countries is none of our goddamn business. That's my opinion.
See, that's the whole issue with like the United Nations, because it's like Europe has an abnormally high perspective on what the U.S. is doing, like for news. So like in the U.S. itself, we all know what the media does with Trump, but even in the Europe, they're doing the same thing with Trump, because it's like it seems like the United States is concerned with what's happening in Europe, and Europe is concerned with what's happening in the United States, and we're both not focused on what's actually happening. Because I think I see a lot of that what's going on. You'll rather focus on the issue elsewhere than your own issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that makes sense. Midget says everybody's working class is suffering, but that's wrong. Your daddy here in America says that jobs are up, and we have no issues with jobs or the working class. Everybody's on an increase. So,
well, they're on an increase. Doesn't mean there's no issues just because things are getting better.
According to Midget's daddy, there aren't. Everything is
not true.
Guns and fucking roses.
But let's talk about reality, though, where there are problems, obviously, with the working class and even the middle class.
Well, and that's about income, and you can't fix that. You can't force a fixed income. You can't fix that. You can't stop inflation. And you can't force, what are you going to do? You're going to force a $15 minimum wage? We understand how that's going to affect businesses, specifically smaller businesses. You can't just dump that on somebody. And,
right.
Even a ramp up would be workable, but the difference there is the ramp up to even a $15 minimum wage. By the time we got there, most of those people that are running those minimum wage jobs are going to be out of fucking jobs because there's going to be something else doing the job for them. They'll be out of the fucking McDonald's. They'll be out of the fucking Burger Kings. They'll be out of the retail stores because it's all being automated and taken out of their fucking hands. We're watching it happen. So we can't get to a working class minimum wage that's going to suffice. We can't do it. But I don't know that has anything to do with diplomacy, with our feelings and our situations with other countries. Our economy, the only thing that other countries factor in that is trade. That's all I can understand that they factor in. Their bullshit issues, whether it be political or social, whatever, that's got nothing to do with us. And yes, I understand what you say, Wyatt. That's a very good point, that we focus on this shit that's going on, this turmoil that's going on in other countries, just like other countries do with us or others, because you don't want to look at your own shit show, which feeds back to shut the fucking borders.
Well, it's also more about virtue signaling and saying, like, look how great we are because we're helping these other people. I think that's more like what it is than, distracting from what's going on here. I think it's more about, like, look how great and, virtuous we are.
Yeah, but that's the irony there, is in our dealings with the EU, in our dealings with anybody in Europe, we're not virtue signaling at all. We're pretty much telling them, hey, you guys suck. You've been putting all the load on us. Fuck you.
Well, they're doing plenty of virtue signaling of their own.
Well, that's fine, right? But we've got no virtue to maintain over there. Like Wyatt said, they see our president and subsequently our country as a fucking joke right now. Remember the baby Trump blimp?
Okay, yeah, that was a very few people.
Well, I'm sorry. Very few people are what matters these days when it comes to social media, when it comes to social justice, when it comes to all of this social, the identity politics, all of it.
It's not indicative of the rest of the population of the UK.
It's the vocal minority.
Right. which the vocal minority is having a huge impact in the UK. I mean, look at what they're outlawing in the UK because of the vocal minority. Hate speech. My God, the level that they're going to with this. Because of what? The vocal minority. I don't care what anybody says, but this vocal minority is having far too much impact in other countries and here. People need to shut the fuck up. You want to make a change? Get into politics. Follow politics like Wyatt does. Look at something that you can actually make a difference in. If you know, and if you want to try and get into politics and destroy our First Amendment, by all means, go for it. But that Second Amendment, like you often tell me, John, that Second Amendment is going to protect that First Amendment at some point.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the vocal minority needs. I don't know. They just need to shut the fuck up. Nobody cares.
I don't think they need to shut up. I think they need to be more educated and actually have a point to make instead of just screaming into the ether demanding things.
Well, right. They all regurgitate the same talking points that they heard somebody on YouTube say, or they heard somebody on Facebook say, and they regurgitate that as their own ideology.
And that's where the NPC meme comes from, because they're just scripted responses. Yeah.
So it's like, and you know, the news didn't used to be the way it is now either. Like the news used to be kind of like an NPR type of format, but not like super biased in that way, where it was just like factual information. But then it turned to entertainment. So the people who scream these phrases and scream and do these random things and riots and whatever, the only reason they're getting mics and videos is because they're doing something entertaining. So it's like a lot of it just comes from that. And they're getting in their way because they're getting their microphones and getting videos and, you know, they're getting seen more than the people who are actually educated.
Right. Yeah, 100% agree.
There's too many.
I was going to say, do you want to move on to the next topic there?
Do we have a next topic?
Robert?
Do we?
I think so.
Possibly. But yeah, so you know, they're you know, I don't know, it's fucking just so confusing. But you know, when we're talking about Facebook, so they came out with they put out an article. They're starting to get wholesale stupid with their bans now, right? They're just taking it to the hilt. So apparently, they have banned Louis Farrakhan, of all people. And then they included Alex Jones. Now, Alex Jones, they had already dropped from Facebook, but they also own Instagram. So he was still continuing on Instagram. So they've banned him there as well, and others. And they constitute them as dangerous. So Facebook gets to qualify them as dangerous, which, you know, the argument that the conversation that was going on in our Discord channel was about are they right to do that? Are they allowed to do that? And honestly, sad to say, but yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They can ban anybody they fucking want to, as long as, you know, I mean, you can appeal and say, oh, you're not following your terms of service, you're, you know, whatever, but, you know, they're a private organization, right?
Yeah. I mean, my issue is when people who are for, these platforms banning people that they don't like are the same, and, you know, their argument is always, you know, oh, they're a private corporation, they can do what they want. Those are the same people who want the baker to bake the gay wedding cake. So they're fine with forcing someone to do something when it fits their needs. But when it fits their needs to censor someone, that's no problem either. It's just the hypocrisy is what really bothers me.
Oh, sure. But now this goes to the vocal minority, right? I mean, are people, you know, well, according to Facebook, a spokesperson for Facebook said, we've always banned individuals or organizations that promote or engage in violence and hate, regardless of ideology.
Which is not true at all.
The process for evaluating potential violators is extensive, and it is what led us to our decision to remove these accounts today.
I wonder where I've heard that term before.
Yeah.
It seems pretty popular.
What's that? The dangerous or no?
It's like we're banning on political hate or political speech, or they don't say political speech, but we're banning you because of hate or this narrative what claims to be hateful. But it's like, and this is Twitter, not Facebook, but the Red Elephants YouTuber who I've listened to a couple of times, he got banned on Twitter for a series of tweets he had about like the minimum wage, I believe it was. But
Really?
It was some like basic level tweet. It may not have been, I think it was either minimum wage or the black issue, like how blacks commit more crime than whites. He had a tweet about that essentially, and YouTube removed him because of that tweet, claiming that it was hate, but it was just statistics. So it's like it's all these claims and all the tech empires are doing it. You know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at this point, even though it's linked with Facebook. But I mean, all of them are doing it, and it's all this term of hate or false narrative, or it's just in that umbrella category.
Well, so let me ask you this, Wyatt. Do you think how much of this, or how much of this do you think is spurred by users reporting and complaining about this to prompt the investigation that ultimately leads to the banning?
I think that's very much a thing on Twitter, because when Dorsey was on the Joe Rogan with Tim Pool, and that became very viral video. It was almost stated several times that was their process of banning or eliminating certain people on their Twitter was of users reporting these tweets more than usual. And Tim Pool brought up the concept of like mob culture, where their people are doing it to ban them, even though it's not really something they should be, but it's more just kind of like for fun, so to speak. So these people are getting banned who aren't supposed to, so to speak. But to that point, I think it's very much for Twitter, at least, very user suggested on how they ban their people.
And to expand on your point there, especially with Twitter, it's against their terms of service to have targeted and incited harassment. And what's the other word that they use? Where you're constantly flagging someone's account, like that is against their terms of service. But they don't do anything to the people who are being banned for no reason. They don't do anything to the people who are flagging them constantly. And I think it's because they want those people to be flagged.
Well, I think it falls into virtue signaling as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, so our vocal minority is complaining, and we're going to go ahead and superimpose them as indicative of our user base, and go ahead and investigate this and look at a potential ban. But and there's go back to what you said about the fellow who got banned from Twitter. This same thing happened with Andrew Yang Gang 2020. Just saying, where he's been talking about truck drivers being put out of their jobs, and he referenced he pointed out that that most of those truckers are white, because it's a fact, right? He goes on statistics. He looks at it and he says, okay, there's X many truck drivers, and in the Midwest, this majority of them are white. So he had pointed something to that effect out. And so immediately, plus coupled with this white supremacy, the scenario that people were saying he was letting white supremacists support him, which he called them out. He was branded with this identity politics bullshit, where it's like, no, that's not what he's saying. I mean, it's facts, right? I mean, do we really need to be oppressed because we state facts?
Yeah,
that's the issue with Twitter. especially why people get so aggravated about it. Because, you know, especially with like the Covington kids, when all the people were telling them to, you know, die or sending out their address and things like that, the people what did that on Twitter never ended up getting banned, even though it was a direct threat at these people. Rather than you have, you know, the YouTuber guy just told you about who got banned for a simple tweet about statistics. So it's like this is why people get so aggravated with Twitter or these tech, you know, giants, because they're saying one thing but they're not doing what they actually say.
Well, you know, and I think though that we run into this catch-22 that, well, we're talking about a free market, right? So when you have a company like Facebook or you have a company like Twitter, they tell you, like John will tell you, he's talked about this on and off mic, that the way to punish a business for doing something like that is things like boycotting the business or walking away from them, that kind of thing. Yet, is that possible for something like Twitter and Facebook, which are so globally dominated? They're such, and then in turn, people walk away and they go to something, a new site that's like, oh, we're all about free speech and we're not about banning anybody and we want people to say their piece. And but once their user base gets big enough, will they not capitulate to the vocal minority just the way the larger companies did before they,
And they'll go down too until someone, is smart enough to not capitulate. I mean, there's been several businesses that don't. I think Gab is the biggest one. Gab and Minds are the two biggest alternative social media sites right now. And Gab got taken down. I think it was their domain host that took them down, and then they got back up, and they're even bigger and they're more popular. And then they came out with Dissenter, which is amazing. I use it all the time. Yeah, it's awesome. So I think that Gab is really going to be the next big competitor to like Facebook and Twitter, who are actually losing accounts. They're losing user bases all the time, especially because they keep banning people, and then they're also just driving people away because of the censorship. So I think it will actually happen.
Okay, so
and yeah, Gab is actually going to release a browser as well. That's right. Midget B just told me.
Okay, so let me ask you this: how are these companies going to make money? These newer ones like Gab and Dissenter, how are they going to make money?
I'm not 100% sure how Gab makes money. I haven't really looked into it. I don't think I've seen any ads. Let me go check it out. I guess I wouldn't see ads because I have ad blocker, but
I mean, ultimately, if they receive
cryptocurrency,
if they get revenue, well, even the cryptocurrency sites use advertisements. That's the thing. They make money from ad-driven media on. I was playing around with cryptocurrency for almost a year, and on every crypto site I went on to, advertisements, and of course, all the advertisements are geared towards cryptocurrency and sites and this, that, and the other. But again, it's advertisements, and honestly, advertisers, when your primary source of income becomes advertisers, capitulation is the next step, because when you have, like, look at YouTube, advertisers want to pull from platforms where hate speech is generated, things like this, and they use that as one of the reasonings behind why, if advertisers are going to pull their dollars, we need to get rid of this person. And Twitter's the same way. Right. Facebook is the same way. So how you've got to have a site that is not funded by advertising dollars. These PPCs, pay-per-click advertisements on their page, no matter who it is that you're advertising with, or hope that all the advertisers are what, inherent trolls themselves that don't give a shit what's said.
Well, so I'm on Gab right now, and I don't see any ads. I turned off ad blocker for the site. Oh, here we go. Yeah, you can go with an optional upgrade to Gab Pro. You unlock additional features to enhance your Gab experience and help Gab make possible for everyone. So yeah, upgrading. so you can actually subscribe to them. So that's going to be how they're going to make a lot of money.
Sure.
I'm not sure exactly what they offer, but
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, Facebook
Yeah,
has...
I know that.
Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead,
go
Wyatt.
ahead, Wyatt.
I know that Gab and Minds both have the like pro editions where you pay to get further things. I know Minds more than Gab, even though I'm on both. But Minds, when you subscribe to their platform or buy their pro version, you get seen more, and they give you these things what they call boost. And essentially, if you boost your certain post, it sends it out to everyone, basically. So, like, in normal, I might get like 15 people would see a post. If I were to boost it, it will get into the thousands of people who see this post. So that's how they're getting people to pay for the thing, and I'm assuming that's how they're making their money as well. Because I'm pretty sure that they both don't have ads.
Yeah, I
just scrolled through
Gab.
Things of it.
Yeah, I just scrolled through Gab. There were no ads. I turned the ad blocker off, of course.
Now, Midget seems to believe that ad-driven internet is dead, which
I don't think so.
I completely disagree, because ad-driven internet is 99% of the internet you see out there.
Right. So I don't think it's dead yet.
No, it's far from dead.
It's on it. I think it's on its way, though. I think it's on the decline. Absolutely.
Potentially, but no. This is where advertisers have to go now, because they don't have it on TV anymore. I mean,
but as more and more people
imagine Google walking away from advertisers.
As more and more people leave places like YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, and no one's seeing the advertisements, then where are they going to go?
The advertisers are going to make deals with other sites to make sure they get their advertisements seen. That's how it works.
And if they do the same thing that Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are doing, and they start censoring, people are going to leave those sites, especially sites that their foundation is a free speech foundation, and they start going against that, then that's it. They're done.
Advertisers are always going to follow the audience.
Yeah, of course. But if the advertisers start, influencing the things the content that are on the sites,
sure, that's
what then the people are going to leave. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then they're going to go to the next site that's going to be approached by advertisers to market their products.
Right, and then as the advertisers start seeing that that's not working anymore, that they can't influence.
Advertisers are never going to stop looking for every channel, opting for any channel to get their advertisements out there. It doesn't matter what it is. Unless you have a site that full on says, we will accept no advertising dollars, you will never see an ad on our site. That's where the advertisers will run into a brick wall. Outside of that, you're going to see it.
See, Midget B makes the point I was trying to make right there. He makes it much more succinctly than I did. The alternative is that advertisers capitulate not to the outrage mobs, but to free speech. Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say, but he said it better.
But advertisers are always going to advertise to the market. And if the vocal minority is the loudest voice they're hearing out there, Gillette's going to put out an ad about what it means to be a man. You're going to see these commercials. Now, that's not to say that they're not going to... Gillette's not just going to put that commercial out. They're going to put out other commercials that appeal to the rugged, manly man, too. It's just not going to be as blatant, but still, they're going to advertise to the audience. And and they will do what they have to I don't know. At this present time, it's feeding into the vocal minority. Next week, it could be something different. Last week, who knows what it was. I mean, look at advertisement and how it's changed, but it's never fucking gone away. No matter what media source was the primary media source, advertising products never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Well, there's a lot of money in it. There was a Medium article I read, I think it was in 2016, what break down how ads make money. And it was focused mainly on news sites. But essentially, they have headline writers, and these headline writers create clickbait, essentially. And once you click on the site, there's other ads, and we've all seen it where they're on the side, on the bottom. And unless you had ad block, then, you see them. And as soon as you see the ads, then the company makes money, regardless of what the company is. And until that starts to not make money, those ads are always going to be there. because there's just a lot of money in it.
Hmm? And in my job, I do editing for internet content, and it is still the same game now as it was 10, 15 years ago when I started doing it, where it's all about keywords and click-throughs, because the PPC, the pay per click, is a moneymaker. It is a huge moneymaker. You get your advertisement seen, but the people who are posting the ads, they're making, a lot of people are making hand over fist money getting a hold of these marketing dollars, because it is one of the largest portions of funds that companies have, is to pay for advertising. And I'm sorry, I think billboards are not going to be the way advertisers are going to resign themselves to going if the internet becomes difficult. It's not going to become difficult.
They're gonna have to learn that they can't just capitulate to the vocal minority. They need to learn that they're gonna have to just say, "Hey, we're gonna run our ads in front of whatever." I mean, I don't understand why they think that just because their ads run in front of a certain type of video that means that they're endorsing it. They're endorsing the content. No, they're just running an ad, right? So I mean, like we just had that problem with what was it? Babbel ran an ad during Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News, and they got all kinds of shit for it. And they came out on Twitter saying, like, that was not our intention. Yes, we bought, we bought advertising with Fox News, but we did not know that it was going to air during Tucker Carlson's show, and so we pulled our advertisers from there, and they just completely bent the knee to, the smallest vocal minority. It's just saying, oh, we don't like that you did that. As if, running an ad during his show means that you endorse his show. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Right. And see, that's the interesting thing that I want to point out is, as much as anybody might want to claim that ad-driven internet is on the decline, apparently the advertisers have the power. Because if advertisers say, I'm going to pull if this person continues on your site.
So I don't think you're looking down the line far enough. It's not the advertisers that have the power. It's this vocal minority. It's these outrage, the outrage mob.
Sure, but the advertisers are listening.
The advertisers. Yeah, well, because they think that that's how everyone feels, because there's so much coming all at once. But they don't realize that they just let low for a day, it's going to go away.
But like YouTube, like YouTube came out and said, advertisers are walking away, not wanting to be broadcast on these shows. So
good. So YouTube tells them to get fucked.
No, they didn't. They said, okay.
That's what I'm saying. They should. They should.
They capitulated to the power.
They always do.
They capitulated to the power.
Right.
Which is the advertising dollar.
All YouTube had to do was say, don't let the door hit you on the way out. That's it. And then just 6 months later, they're going to be back. They always do. They've always come back. And they're going to continue to come back.
But when it's all said and done, advertising is the same way. It's not going to go away. It's always going to be there. Right?
Yeah, in some form or another. Yeah, it's always going to be there.
Right, and we're not going
to. But you know what? And you know what they've done? They've started to. This happened a few years ago. They started going to the content creators directly and saying, "Hey, we'll give you, X amount of money. Say do like a 30-second, little script for us at the beginning of your videos. From here on out, we'll give you, X number of dollars every time you do, instead of just running it on the actual platform."
That's happening a lot recently. Like a lot of the semi-bigger YouTubers are starting to do that quite a bit, because there's like Shadowversities. I've seen them do it. Some movie review people I've seen do it, and they'll just have these little segments. And sometimes, you could tell it's more off script, but mainly they're reading from a script, and it's either like at the beginning, the middle, end, it's somewhere in their video. But instead of having the typical clip run through, it's these advertisements coming directly from the YouTuber himself.
Right. Ben Shapiro does that.
Yes, yeah, he does a lot.
Oh yeah, he's famous.
And you know what?
Was it Gold Birch or something like that? Yeah.
And see that I give props to. That I'll give big props to, because that's the way advertising used to be done. Like you'd have your talk radio shows, and they would sit there and they would say, okay, just a moment, here's a word from one of our advertisers, and they'd run off a scripted little thing from the advertiser, and then they would go on with the show. And it was great. You know, that voice advertising something is a lot more impactful than a video ad that comes on for 10 or 15 seconds demanding that you watch it, and most of us are sitting here turning our head away or have our ad blocker on. But
yeah, exactly.
As Midget says, the power they wield is illusory, but it's not. The power they wield is money, and right now, money is the key. Money is
like you said before that the people who have the money are their customers.
Right.
But the people who are outraged are not their customers. They don't have money.
Right, right. But the advertising dollars that are available for companies like YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook is astronomical. You can't even begin to imagine the amount of money that's there for them to be made. I would imagine most of the fucking money that Facebook makes, those billions, a large portion of that is coming from advertising dollars.
Yeah.
So how can you even say that power is illusory when the truth is that power is what's funding that company? That means, there's the argument that Facebook is, subsidized by the government, which Tenchi looked into, and he found out that it was just 2 grants that they've actually gotten from the government. That's the only subsidies they've had, which were grants, which is just free money that you can try and get. So you can
it's not free money because it's our money that's being given to Facebook. If you're getting any kind of government subsidy.
It's free to Facebook.
There's no such thing as free. If you are receiving any kind of government money, you must be held under the Constitution, which includes the First Amendment.
That's not true.
Yeah, it needs to be.
Really? Would you say that about grants that people get to go to college that comes from the government? That's free money from the government? They should be
able to say whatever they want.
Wait.
Yes, they should be able to say whatever they want. They should have all the same rights, yes.
Okay,
they should not be able to violate someone else's constitutional rights. Right.
So, because of private organization, 2 times asked for some money that was, out there offered to everybody. Since they asked for that money, now they need to capitulate to whatever the government says they should do?
No, they need to not violate people's constitutional rights as if they were a government entity.
They're not. They're violating people's rights because they're a private organization. They're part of the free market.
They're taking government money. They take government money.
They are not taking government money. They took government money. The last time they took it was 2013.
What was it for? What was the grant for? Do you know?
Don't know what the grants were for, but the 2 grants that they took totaled approximately $275,000.
Damn. That's too much.
Is it? So,
yeah.
So they should still be beholden to the government for that? Because if we go down that path, that means that the government can dictate what you do with your freedoms. If you take money for college, or if you're
No. They're saying that you can't violate someone else's freedoms. It's saying that you have to use the Constitution as your guideline.
Then that means that company can no longer be part of the free market.
They're already not.
They are.
Technically not.
How are they not?
They're part of a constrained market, like Midget B is saying in the chat there.
Okay. Are they a privately held company or now publicly owned company? They've gone public. But they're part of the free market. They're a private organization. They're a company, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're a company.
If they're not actively and consistently subsidized by our government, which would make them a government entity, then no. They're not beholding to do anything outside of what their terms of service and how they judge those terms of service being violated. They are no different than a person kicking you out of their bar because they don't want you there.
And that's fine. But again, they're going to be taken down, like I said, by the free market eventually. It's just going to take longer because they're an institution. It'll be much more difficult for them to, go. They're probably going to take more government, grants later on. They're probably going to take some kind of bailout or some shit.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and let me pose this question to both of you. Just give me a simple answer. Mm-hmm. How long do you actually think it'll take if we ignore if no scandals happen that embezzlement?
Mm-hmm.
How long do you actually think it would take Facebook to fucking go under? How long do you think that'll be?
I don't think they'll be here in 10 years.
10 years, you think it'll be?
Yeah,
Wyatt?
I don't think they'll be here in 10 years. Go ahead.
I'm thinking it would probably be 5 to 7 years would be my guess. I think people are getting more fed up with Facebook and these other outlets than you think.
Okay. But when you say more people than I think, what is that percentage of their user base?
Of their user base?
Yeah, let's look at it from a percentage of their user base.
Yeah, that's a good question because I think a lot of like the people I've known who used Facebook, which is mainly the older generation at this point, have either pulled out if they've disagreed with Facebook, especially during like Zuckerberg's hearings and things. A lot of the people I've known who lean more conservative already pulled out. So I think a lot of the general Facebook usage is either people who use it on a regular basis, so they've almost become like addictive to it, or it's the people who agree with Facebook fully and are using it to support the platform, and they're also addicted in a way if they're using it. But it's like, so if I were to give a percentage of their users itself, I would probably go less than a third would be pulling out in that time period.
All right. So now, and let me say, my wife uses Facebook on a daily, regular basis. But my wife is part of seed groups, and she has a gardening website. So that's what she uses it for, right? There's a lot of people on Facebook that do seed swaps, talk gardening, share pictures, and discussions about plants, right? Nothing fucking Facebook oriented, right? It's really not even about Facebook. It's just the platform by which they use it. And it's not the only platform she uses. So when we look at that, when we understand that there is a user base there that's just using Facebook for what it's intended to be used for, and like Wyatt said, maybe if he had to guesstimate, maybe a third. Is a third of the user base enough to bring fucking Facebook down? I mean, honestly.
Well, so
I think it is.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Right, Wyatt.
I think it is enough to bring it down because I think a lot of these platforms are going to get over ambitious once they start to see the major slump. And you can kind of see it with YouTube when people are starting to backlash against YouTube. YouTube was starting to have to show themselves fully, and that's when. And you could say that they really haven't changed, but I think they're going to be woken up by it more than usual. And I think a third of the Facebook usage could bring the company down, even if it's not the majority.
Well, yeah, so there's a couple of reasons why, to expand on Wyatt's point there. So it's not about like a third of them gone because they're not going to leave all at once, right? It's going to be a downward trend. And then, so your investors are going to see that. Your stockholders are going to see that. And they're going to start panicking. Because they see a trend, not necessarily that they're all going to leave. The entire third is not going to leave at once. And also, you have to look at how many people are joining Facebook, which I think is a more important number.
I would like to see those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't think a lot of members of the new generation, Gen Z, is going to be joining it. They're mostly on Instagram and Twitter and these kind of things. Like Wyatt, do you have a Facebook account?
I do have a Facebook, and I had it for my school project because I was going to actually start my project on Facebook, but I was struggling to find people to join the group I had, and that's when I moved to Discord and other things. But like that expands on your point as far as joining, because I do agree that that's probably a more important number, because if less people are joining and more people are leaving, then you have a trend as you were talking about. Because I know that my generation and my peers are not joining Facebook because Facebook's almost like a laughable thing. Like there's a lot of like inside jokes as far as Facebook goes. None of my peers really respect Facebook, I guess you could say, as something to use.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit you with some statistics. Okay.
All right.
This is from a digital marketing company talking about Facebook. All right. So first off, worldwide, there are over 2.38 billion monthly active users as of March 31st this year, which is an 8% increase in Facebook MAUs or whatever monthly active users year over year. So that's on the rise, active users. 1.56 billion people on average log into Facebook daily and are considered daily active users, another 8% increase year over year. And a lot of these statistics, by the way, are gathered from Facebook in their reporting, right? This is what Facebook reports to the marketing companies, this, that, and the other.
And that could be sketchy as well as far as that goes.
If they're cooking the books, but what's the point? I mean, remember, they have to be accountable to shareholders as well. There has to be transparency to a certain extent.
They have to be accountable. They don't have to be honest.
Well,
right, yeah.
But it behooves someone to be honest to a certain extent, right? But I mean, if you have 2.38 billion users, that's more of a pat on the back than Midget B in the chat makes a good point here. They've been turning a lot of third worlders onto Facebook by installing infrastructure, which is true. And smart.
Very smart, yeah, for as a business, extremely smart. But so I don't think that really it doesn't. I don't know. Let's see how many Americans. Like the statistics for America is.
I don't know if it breaks it down to that yet. Let me.
It probably doesn't. It's probably ward as far as Facebook goes.
So their mobile advertising revenue accounts for 93% of advertising revenue for the first quarter of this year, which is the same percentage for quarter 2 2018, which was up from 89% a year before that in quarter 4 of 2017. So they're on the rise as far as revenue dollars from mobile advertisements on their Facebook app. And again, that speaks to the power of the advertising revenue that funds Facebook. They've increased. There are 1.74 billion mobile active users for December 2016, which was an increase of 21% year over year. That's what they reported in 2017. I don't know why they, why they didn't have more mobile active users reported for the recent years.
J. Edgar in the chat asks, is Robert still the only one talking? Yes, usually. Yes.
Sorry, I was the one that bothered to pull up the fucking facts.
Yeah, someone cut that guy's mic, he says.
Okay, I'll shut up.
No, he's just messing with you. Jeez. God, don't be so sensitive.
Carry on.
Well, see, I think a big statistic to watch is the younger generation as far as who's actually downloading Facebook for something new, like a new platform downloaded. Because I think a lot of the older generation is joining Facebook, but I think a lot are leaving at the same time. So it's hard to say what the numbers truly are because I don't know the statistics very well as far as Facebook goes. But I don't think that the younger generation is really the ones who are joining Facebook and making these numbers go higher.
The most common age demographic on Facebook are users aged 25 to 34, which are 29.7% of the users. And in regards to how many in America, it doesn't specifically give American numbers, but in Europe, and this is Europe as a whole, there are only 307 million people on Facebook. So my guess is a lot of it is in the Asian market and the American market. Now, of course, for the American market, we can only have, I don't know, I would only think upwards to maybe if we doubled our population, because you can have like a couple of accounts on Facebook, if not more. I wouldn't see us getting up to 1 billion, but it's possible if you look at businesses and things like that. 5 new profiles are created every second on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Every second, 5 new profiles are created. That does not sound like a downward trend to me.
Those are probably
5 new bots you're talking about?
Yeah, or suck accounts, or when yours gets banned, you make a new one.
There's a lot of
when it comes to advertising dollars
in Facebook.
When it comes to advertising dollars, does it matter? The amount of accounts is what matters.
Advertisers, yeah, because it shows like they get paid based on how many people see it, and a bot is just a script. It's not going to see the ad.
For the most part, yeah.
Oh,
Guess what? Out of that,
it's also clicks.
out of that
Yeah.
2.38 billion monthly active users, their statistics show that there are only approximately 83 million fake profiles. So they've taken that into account as well. So 83 million is kind of a small percentage of the worldwide reach that Facebook has and the number of accounts.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I give it 10 years, though, and not, like, tomorrow. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon, but I do think that it's not going to be around for too much longer, especially as more scandals and stuff do happen.
I wish they gave a date on this, but according to the Social Skinny, and this is on digital marketing, this is one of their statistics, 50% of 18 to 24-year-olds go on Facebook when they first wake up. So that
I go on Twitter first thing, but I've usually got notifications and stuff. So that's about it. I never get notifications on Facebook or anything. So I don't know.
Well, it's like, I think Facebook will eventually die out, but it's the problem of, is it going to die out or is it going to age out? Because if it ages out, then you're talking about 10 plus. But if you're talking about dying out, then you're talking less than 10 years. Is it going to become a dead platform, or is it just going to die on itself?
Well, Facebook isn't stupid though, because look at their umbrella. They've got Instagram, they've got WhatsApp.
So you know what?
Facebook
I wonder then if they're adding those numbers onto the Facebook.
That would be a big question, because I know a lot of my friends, because it's an international public school, use Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp for that matter, because it's free and you can call overseas, and that's a big plus. So like a lot of people who have Facebook Messenger don't really have Facebook as their social media.
Well,
so they're using the messaging, but they're not using like the purpose of what Facebook was originally for.
And that's
like pictures
and that's understandable.
Joining.
But now most of these facts. So when they say the total number of people who now, please note that this last item is subject to an order of going part of your digital marketing. Please note that the last item on this list for the total number of people who now use Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp and Messenger every day on average. The last item on the list, which is 16, it's talking about 16 million local business pages have been created as of May 2013, which is a 100% increase from 8 million in June 2012. But that's across all of those sites where these businesses are being active on those sites, because Instagram has become a place for businesses to really promote themselves too. But most of these statistics are specific to Facebook itself as on the Facebook platform. Any that aren't are being called out as including Instagram, WhatsApp. But most of those numbers are specific to Facebook itself. So it's an amazingly large entity that spans the entire fucking globe. And I have to bring up the fact that we have to remember that we look at these things and we form our opinions from an Americentric viewpoint. I mean, do you think Chinese people are sitting around worried about us crying about Black Lives Matter? Do you think they give a fuck?
Well, I know that they were pissed. They were pissed about, I think it was Star Wars, The Force Awakens. I think it was The Force Awakens. I forget why exactly. They were pissed off about like some virtue signal-y shit. They were just like, we don't care about this. We don't like this. So they lost a lot of money over there, which normally American movies do exceedingly well, or exceptionally well. I forget what exactly the deal was. I'm sure Midget B will remind me and call me stupid in a second, but that's fine. I was dumb.
Well, it's like you could take Aquaman as far as like how much money that made overseas, especially in China, because it more than I think like tripled the amount of money it made in the United States. So it's like the market's always been big as far as that goes, and I think it was The Force Awakens, if I'm remembering that right as well.
Well, I mean, we've got to factor in that they've got what 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 times our population. So, anytime we look at numbers from China compared to America, we've got to take that into account. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you know, but you know, and even if we exclude China, if we look at other countries, India, places like this where there's large populations that don't give a fuck about our social bullshit. They don't care
Yeah.
about our little crybaby shit. They don't care. You know, not as many of them are going to care if Louis Farrakhan gets pulled from fucking Facebook. They're not going to care as much if Alex Jones. They don't give a fuck about that deplatforming. Not
Yeah.
the type of population effect that it would have here because we are America. You know, so we, you know, when we look at it on a global scale, can we honestly say that maybe Facebook is 10 years down the road dead here in America, but is it going to be dead globally?
Oh, I don't care about that then. Yeah, I mean, as long as they're not taking government money anymore, and as long as they're not affecting our lives anymore, yeah.
Well, you know, this whole thing about the government money, I got to say, John, if they're sitting there and they're saying, hey, if you're a business, we've got free money, why
It's
would
not free money.
It's a grant. That's all there is to it, John.
Yeah.
It's a grant. It's string free is what it's supposed to be. If you get a grant, a Pell Grant to go to college, it's string free.
Yeah, no, I realize that.
They can't dictate what you do with the money or you know, you have to spend it on school, right? You've got to spend that, but they can't dictate what
So
you
they
do
can
with the
dictate.
education you get from that money.
Right, but they can dictate what you do with that money.
Well, they tell you, yes, this money is for school. But guess what? A lot of people don't use it for school. They use it to pay their rent, right?
Well, yeah,
I mean,
while
people
they're going to
use-
school, though, right?
or whatever,
So-
right? They use it for various reasons.
Which is
So-
what it's for. You can live while you go to college, yeah.
So if a small business is trying to get off the ground, you know, and I'm not saying Facebook, I'm just talking about Joe Blow trying to
Oh,
start
yeah,
a candy
yeah.
store, and he gets a grant from the government to get his business started. Does that mean he's beholden to the government and how he runs his business?
No, not necessarily.
So why would anybody else?
I don't know. I'm not really saying that they should be.
But
I'm
you
just
kind
saying
of
that they shouldn't be
did.
getting. I'm just saying that. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that they shouldn't be getting our money.
Well, then you should
For nothing.
and that's what we take up with the government, right? Stop giving away
Yeah.
free money.
Yeah.
Stop giving away free money to fucking multi-billion-dollar companies, right?
Yeah,
That's
I'm
the
not mad at them.
stupidity.
I'm not mad at them for taking advantage of the system. I'm
Right.
mad at the system for being allowed to be taken advantage of. You know.
But if anybody uses this argument about that, you know, any grant money that they've taken from the government, like any business would if it's available and they can get it, anybody uses that argument that Facebook now has some responsibility to protect free speech or enforce free speech or not step on someone that they feel has violated their private market, private company terms of service, well, fuck off. You don't have that luxury. They're a private company, and they can pretty much ban anybody they fucking want to, and let the free market, as you are a fan of saying, let the free market sort it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if it
Absolutely.
will, because I
No,
don't think
it will eventually.
I don't think Alex Jones is.
But so what?
I
Alex
think-
Jones? What about him?
I think Louis Farrakhan is going to have more impact than Alex Jones
Why do you say that?
because it's Louis fucking Farrakhan, and he speaks for black people. And now
I don't think he does.
Now we're bringing Louis Farrakhan. He's
Yeah.
kind of an extremist.
Yeah, he
wasn't
absolutely
he
is.
part
So
of
I don't
the,
think. I don't think
wasn't he part of the Black Panthers? I mean,
I'm not 100%. I think so, wasn't he?
and in this racial day and
I don't know.
age, trust me when I say someone like Louis Farrakhan, his voice carries weight. Now,
I don't know.
Compared
I don't
to
know if he's going
Alex
to carry weight in
Jones?
the intersectional community because he's pretty anti-Semitic. So
well, yeah,
I don't know.
but how many white folks are listening to him anyway?
oh, hardly any. I'm sure there are
Right,
some.
that's my point. I mean, he's speaking to a very yes, he creates an echo chamber with who he speaks to, I'm sure, for the most part. But
Oh, yeah.
you know, I think he's going to be more impactful than Alex Jones because, you know, Alex Jones, I don't know, he seemed more like a comedy show than real fucking news, you know, real
Oh, he's so entertaining though. I love
Right.
Alex Jones.
And
Yeah,
I
that's-
get that. But, you know, there's a difference between someone, Louis Farrakhan, who is a known activist, speaking to, you know, as much as he can, an extremist audience, versus Alex Jones, which is literally, like you said, trying to entertain people with his shenanigans.
Oh no, I
Now,
think he actually believes the things that he says.
do
I
you
don't think
really?
he's like, yeah, I do. I really do think he does believe
I
the
think
things
some
he
of the
says.
things he believes. I don't think it's all by any means for Alex Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I think he hyperbolizes, but
Hmm.
I think he does actually believe the base of the things that he says.
Oh
Wow.
no, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, he's very crazy. Like, I don't think anyone Alex Jones that serious, and that's
Right.
why even when people were going against Alex Jones for claiming that he, provoked violence or whatever, he even said himself, he's like, "No, I'm not the person what says to provoke violence because no one's going to take me serious." He basically
Right.
said that
Right.
several times.
Right.
Because he knows himself that these people who watch him are watching him for entertainment value rather than
Hmm.
believing what he says.
Right. And that's why I say, Louis Farrakhan, I could see people getting upset. Like, and actually, I don't know, doing stupid shit because he's an extremist and he actually preaches more of an extremist view, right? In
Hmm.
how we need to deal with the man and the system and white oppression and everything. Whereas Alex
I don't
Jones,
think he talks about white oppression. Oh yeah, I guess Louis
he's
Farrakhan.
kind of black.
Well, yeah, no, I thought,
And-
no. I misheard what I
oh, okay,
misinterpreted
gotcha.
what you meant.
You thought I was
Yeah, I
talking
thought
about
you were
Alex Jones?
like, no. I thought you were saying that he thinks that white people are being oppressed, and I was like, what? Like,
No,
no,
white
It's not-
oppression. Yeah.
right?
Whereas Alex Jones is a shock jock. I
Yeah,
equate Alex Jones to I just did
like
it. Howard
Howard
Stern.
Stern.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's how I see him, and I think that's how a lot of people see him.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's ludicrous to take him off. Like if you don't
Right.
contextualize what he's saying and look at him as an entire entity, if you shortchange him and just look at segments from this, that, or the other, sure, you could call him an extremist whack job.
Well, see, the root of it though comes from the fact that these, executives at, Facebook or Twitter or whatever, they think that people are too stupid to see through that, and that if they hear opinions that might not be completely serious, they might take them seriously. And since you're too stupid to know, what you need to believe, they need to tell you, they need to spoon feed it to you, and shield you from opinions that they might not like, not even that you might not like, just opinions that they might not like.
But
And so that's why people rail against internet censorship. It's just the idea that you're just too stupid.
but do you understand when I say that it's going to be Facebook, it's going to be Twitter, it's going to be the Instagrams, it's going to be these high level, high profile social media companies, along with their user bases, primarily the vocal minority, that are going to get this goddamn Internet Bill of Rights put in place. And then we're all fucked. Because an Internet Bill of Rights is not going to be a Bill of Rights. It's going to
Yeah,
be
if it's put in by those
akin
people,
to
yeah.
a Marxist document and rule set of what you can do online. And it's going to,
Yeah.
I think that is more likely to happen than the end of these companies. Because if that does happen, then we won't see the end of these companies, because that
Right.
will be the foundation that they are now able to continue platforming from.
Well, then they'll certainly gain government subsidies for sure, because they'll be like, well, we need help, being able to police the internet, so give us money.
And I give you
Yeah.
the erosion of your First Amendment.
Oh
You
yeah,
see, that's the main issue is how much power you're giving the vocal minority because
hmm
it depends. It's how serious you take these people as far as what they have to say. Because I think you have a good amount of people would say that this bill of the internet's never going to get passed. But if you're taking what's happened in the past and it's predicting the future, so to speak, I could see something like it getting signed because people aren't really fighting back against this vocal minority as they should be doing. And then that gets to more of like a moral question of what's the proper way to do it.
yeah.
Well,
That's true.
now,
Well, so hang on, Robert. I think we should spend the last 20 minutes talking about a bit of good news for the
we
internet
haven't entered our
instead
last
of
20 minutes yet.
well, just about close
Well,
enough.
so I had a question for Wyatt that was pertinent,
Okay, yeah. All right.
and I'm trying to remember what it was because you interrupted me and drove it out of my fucking head.
Well, yeah, someone's got to interrupt you once in a while.
Oh, yeah. You know, what? Okay, you're right. I'll just shut up. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Talk about the last topic.
Well, I don't have it.
Don't forget a good
I don't.
segue.
I just had one. Yeah. All right. Let me pull up the article. And now I got to find it though because I don't have it ready like you do.
Okay, so while you're doing that, Wyatt,
All right. Yeah.
the last thing you said, can you repeat the last thing you were just talking about so you can jumpstart my 50-year-old mind on the question that I was going to ask you?
On how much power we should give the vocal minority, because I was talking about how, like, some people don't take them serious, so they don't do anything about it. Is essentially what I was trying to say, and others take them serious, but they don't really know how to tackle the vocal minority and how to like make it seem lesser. How to win, I guess you could say, because you get into like the moral question on what's the proper way to combat against the vocal minority without seeming like a total white supremacist or whatever
Right.
the new term would be.
So if we don't listen to the vocal minority, and see, and there's the catch. It's in the name. They're the vocal minority. Everybody else is just keeping their mouth shut. Well, but I see this as, are we not an answer to the vocal minority? Is what we're doing not big enough yet to be the answer to the vocal minority? Are we not vocal enough? Are we not being heard enough?
I think we're starting to be the change of combating against it, because like I go back to my example of how I got turned to YouTube instead of, the mass media news outlets, was because I'm wanting to hear a different narrative of what's being talked about. And I think a lot of people are starting to join how I kind of joined in, because they're starting to, think about what these people are actually saying and go, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. Because it's either not proving itself to be accurate, I guess you could say. So I think what you guys are doing on YouTube and what other people are doing on YouTube is starting to actually have an impact. And I think you could see it because of why they're trying to censor it now. Because these news outlets align themselves with the vocal minority, and they're starting to see that these YouTubers are becoming powerful. Because you can use like Steven Crowder and his thing as an example. He's been fighting against YouTube for a while now, and now YouTube has filed like 3 copyrights against him, and essentially is trying to shut his channel down, according to what Steven's saying. And he's trying to combat against it. So I think what's going on now is the front end of combating against this vocal minority.
Yeah, I think a really good example is Sargon, who started off as a shitty little just a dude on the internet talking about video games, and then now he's running for MEP in the UK, and he's running for office. I mean that is like the logical next step for being a massive success on YouTube, is to go into politics. And so I mean he's been extremely influential in this kind of sphere of YouTube, and in pushing back on these people who want to stop, discourse on the internet.
Well, I think the takeaway that I have from all of this is that, we have to bear in mind that the vocal minority are consumers. And
sometimes
when we talk about our show, for instance, there's no consumption going on. There's no money being generated for anybody. So, when the vocal minority speaks, they're speaking from a consumer standpoint, whereas we're just speaking from an opinion,
from a moral standpoint. Moral and philosophical standpoint.
Yeah, we're just opinions, right? We're not generating revenue.
Right. We're not specifically, but other people, other YouTubers, much bigger YouTubers than us are.
Well, so when they're monetized, is somebody is like YouTube? Is YouTube getting a cut of that monetization
Well, yeah, of course.
when you
You want to talk about
donate
super chats?
$10?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you
YouTube gets 30%.
do
Yeah,
they?
they get.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. On
Yeah.
their what do they call them? Not subscribe star. What do they call the
The super
Patreon.
chats.
super chats? That's it.
Super chats. Yeah.
Yeah, they get
Yeah, they
30% of what the donations are.
Yep.
But my guess is it's not as big as advertising dollars, which is a shame.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I mean, come
I mean,
on. Can a
you can go
YouTuber supply
anywhere.
as much money as Cadillac can?
Not one
know what I
YouTuber.
mean?
No, not one
Right.
YouTuber. No, but I think if you take the collective amount of YouTubers who are all receiving super chats, like not all of them are obviously, but I'm saying the
Right.
ones who are, it's got to be substantial.
It does, but whether or not it can compete with the big boys that are look at Disney. Can they compete with the advertising dollars Disney has as a whole?
No, probably
where
not. No.
That's where we and that's why I say advertisers, man, they're the king.
See, advertisers, they give you guaranteed money. These
Mm-hmm.
YouTubers are not necessarily guaranteed because
Exactly.
they're could get sick and not live stream in certain days, or there's several reasons of how it's not guaranteed money.
Right.
So,
And Midget points out something, especially many of those don't serve ads either.
Well,
So-
the thing is, I'm not sure there's a way to do that.
Oh yeah,
'cause
I
if
can
you-
turn that on where there's ads on our show when people are watching it if they don't have
Right.
an ad blocker on.
Right. But no, I'm saying super chat only. I'm pretty sure you have to have monetization turned on in order to receive super chats.
Well, yeah, that. But what he's talking about,
Yeah,
he's
because
talking
they
about
bleep
don't
out certain
serve.
words and
Yeah.
But
yeah, you can't say certain things and
Right.
other.
But you can turn on advertisements so that even if you're on Super Chat, there will be advertisements pop up at the beginning of your stream.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing, right? And
I'm
that's
saying I
what-
don't think
that's
you
what
can do
Midget-
one without the other.
That's what Midget was pointing out. If you're on Super Chats,
Yeah.
you don't have to turn, like, we don't have advertising turned on for ours. We don't.
Right, we can't yet.
No, we can. We can turn on just ads.
No, we can't. We have to have 1,000 subscribers.
No.
Go ahead and try it.
There was a thing that said we can choose.
I know,
whether
it
or
says
not
we're
to
eligible.
Show ads.
It says we're eligible, but we're not actually able to turn it on yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
'cause I looked into it. We
looked
have to
into
have
it deeper?
1,000.
Because it's not. Yeah, it's not real clear there. But you sure as hell can't turn the fucking advertisements off as a user. That's what
Oh no!
kills
All you
it.
have to do is say something. All you gotta do is say something controversial, and you'll get
Well, no,
demonetized like that.
I mean, as a
as a
viewer,
user?
as a user.
Oh,
viewer,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You can ad block it maybe, but that's about it.
And you
All
can you can pay for YouTube Red. They'll stop running ads for you.
Oh, there's that.
You know.
Yeah.
But they also give the content creators money when you give them a view. Like if you pay for YouTube Red and you watch someone's content, they get money as if you had watched those ads.
Right. Well, that's a fun topic, but let's talk about something that actually is like the largest source of money on the internet.
Oh
Like
yeah.
where the most traffic and the most money is spent on the internet. Let's talk about porn. Because no matter what we say about YouTube and social media, they can't fucking touch porn. You
Yeah.
can't, right? But in case anybody's not, Wyatt, are you familiar with Tumblr?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Tumblr. Yeah, I never had it, but I'm familiar.
I like the disdain that's in your voice too. Yes,
Well,
I'm familiar with Tumblr.
Well, if you okay, well, let me ask you this, Wyatt. Do you like porn?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've watched it before. I think we all have.
Right.
Wyatt's not going to lie, folks. Wyatt is not a liar. John, do you like porn?
Of course,
All right. Most men tend to. A lot of women
Yeah.
do too.
a lot of women too. Yeah.
But anyway, Tumblr. Tumblr was originally it was a social media site. It was trying to be a Facebook, is what it was kind of like, right? You could post things, and you have your blog. It was a blogging site, a social blog site. But as things progressed, Tumblr actually just became a wealth of porn. right? Just blogs and blogs of porn. Like, you could see it all on there. But it was leading into a lot of child pornography, bestiality, things that weren't legal in some states or in the country, whatever, were being posted on there. And of course, as the user base increases, that becomes a lot more difficult to manage, right? Especially when you're talking about a global entity like Tumblr had become. So policing it, this, that, and the other. Well, Tumblr last year, they said, fuck it, no more adult content, no nudity, no pornography, nothing like that. If you have it on your site, you're going to be locked out. You're going to be shut down. Your blog will be shut down till you get rid of it all.
And then eThoughts just screamed out in terror, right, all over the world.
So, and this was a pretty big fucking deal. It was, a lot of people. I mean, so this prompted sites to be built. Other sites to step up and say, hey, we'll be your Tumblr. We're not going to complain about you having porn on our site. And I'll give some examples. MeWe is one. Someone has been, I haven't checked on it in over a month. They were building a site called Cumblr.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
But there were other social media sites that promoted themselves on Tumblr and said, come here, we'll be a haven for you to walk away from Tumblr when the ban goes into effect. And surprisingly enough, if you've not been on MeWe before, you can go on there and you will see, you can just go through and look at profiles of the profiles were started in December of 2018. Just thousands like you could go through. It's like active user since December 2018, December 2018, when the Tumblr ban was going into effect. But now that Tumblr's done that, well, do we know who Tumblr's owned by? Does anybody know who owns Tumblr?
It's Verizon, isn't it?
Verizon, which is a big reason why Tumblr did that, right? And Yahoo is involved in that as well. They didn't want that associated. Well, guess what? Verizon, had some impact on Tumblr shutting all of that down. And now, just a scant 5 months later, guess what? Tumblr's not a moneymaker anymore. Verizon wants to sell it off. And guess who has stepped up to the plate and said, is considering stepping up to the plate to say, hey, we'll take that. Our good friends at Pornhub.
Yeah.
The porn source for the world. I don't know if you've ever looked at Pornhub, but that shit's getting crazy how big they're getting. I mean,
they're like the YouTube but for porn.
They're almost like massive. The YouTube and Facebook of porn combined. Like you can throw out other names for porn, but I say Pornhub. And people know,
everyone knows. Yeah.
I know Pornhub. I've heard. Yeah, I know Pornhub. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So it's possible that Pornhub is going to take Tumblr on. They might buy it from Verizon. That's the minor discussion that's potential.
It's probably a good idea on their part too. Bring Tumblr back to what it was before, the cancer that it was before, and then we can go back to making fun of them again.
Making fun of
Tumblr.
So why would you make fun of a porn site?
Well, it's not going to be only a porn site. I'm sure they're going to bring it back to you can put whatever you want on here so long as it's not actually illegal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what they do on Pornhub, too.
But if it's part of Pornhub, what's going to happen to Tumblr? Are people going to be posting their cute little doggy pics?
Some will. Look at Pornhub. There's like a lot of the gun channels from YouTube, when they cracked down on gun channels, went over to Pornhub.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made news whenever some of the big ones joined in, yeah.
And raise your hand if you go on Pornhub to get your gun information and follow up on gun sites. Didn't see a lot of hands going up because the first thing that pops up is big titties, and you're like, oh.
So wait, now hang on. Why else? But wait.
These what? Cannons.
Why else would I? Why else would I go on Pornhub? I mean, I'm a good Christian boy. I'm just going on there to look at my guns. That's it.
No, you're going on there to look at somebody else's guns. Just tell the
truth. Fine.
I like it. Tumblr loses 3/4 of its original sale value. Pornhub comes up with greaseback hair and its shirt open talking about, I'll give you $50 for that. And that's going to be the truth of it. I mean,
it's about all it's worth, yeah.
I mean, if they had been smart and just offered Tumblr up for sale at the time, as opposed to going for the ban, man, they'd have made a fucking fortune.
Right.
It would have been there was a ton of people on there. It would have made a massive amount of money for sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. If your site has denigrated to the point where it's being used as a porn site, and like Midget says, yeah, I could see maybe 3/4, 50% to 3/4 of the users were actively looking at, posting, or interacting with porn on that site.
Mm-hmm.
How fucking stupid are you to ban the one thing that's getting you that much activity on your site?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the vocal minority. I mean, even, it has impacts on things like this because Verizon doesn't want to be seen. Yahoo doesn't want to be seen as associated with that.
Well, no,
I mean, it could be
big
brand loyalty or brand, recognition as far as it goes, because Verizon doesn't want to be associated with a topic some might find to be wrong or morally wrong as far as that goes. It's kind of like how businesses don't want to be associated with pro-life or pro-choice and that type of thing.
Yeah. What I think the reason why Tumblr started doing it wasn't necessarily because of some kind of backlash they were getting. Wasn't it right around the same time that that bill got passed about like holding like these websites responsible for what's posted there? So like crack down on like the the back what is it, back page and things like that, Craigslist personal ads,
Right.
so these kind of things. So they were holding them responsible for what's on there, as
Sure.
opposed to holding the people responsible who are actually posting it. And so I think that's kind of a bigger
right, and that's
reason why they would do that.
And basically, I mean, and that was when leadership at Tumblr put out these notices that things were going to change at Tumblr. That was what was intimated, and it was intimated from the fact that, like they said, it had become too difficult to police everything that was being posted on Tumblr, right?
Right.
When we're talking about things that venture into the illegal. So their thought is to kill it all, as opposed to stepping up their fucking game and policing it and making a shit ton of money. Because I'm sorry, I don't, we can sit around and be Verizon and act like it's some dirty little secret, but it's fucking porn. Porn is mainstream. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I mean, look how close that our major networks and our cable channels, look how far they push the line on what pornographic things they can show or how close to pornography they can get on just mainstream television. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not like this is, if you're offended by porn, you've been in a vacuum tube for too fucking long. I mean, I don't know. You're still fucking through a hole in a sheet. I don't know. I'm just like,
right.
I mean, as long as the internet's been around, porn's been there. Porn supports the internet. I don't care what anybody fucking says. I mean, and that kind of advertising. I mean, look at it this way. If you knew that all your ads on YouTube were going to involve big titty women in bikinis, you probably wouldn't turn the ad blocker on as much.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Not really, no. I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a seller. And, these companies make hand over fist money from porn and all the click-throughs and this and that. That's the PPC right there, Wyatt. That's the big one. Like when you go on Pornhub and you search, MILFs, you get all these sites, but these are previews from multiple websites, right? And so you click on that video to watch it, that clip or whatever's there. Well, you just paid somebody. Somebody just got paid advertising dollars. And, and it's huge in porn. It's fucking huge. Hell, I figure through one session I'll probably go through, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 20 links. look at different stuff. That's a lot of fucking money when you start averaging over, just America alone with, however many men and women are on Pornhub. Plus the user base that's posting on there is phenomenal as well. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. You don't walk away from a moneymaker even if it's porn. I mean, would you walk away from using Verizon just because one of their websites had a lot of porn on it?
No, not at all. No, I walked away from Verizon for a different reason.
Okay. Well, whoever your phone carrier is, are you going to walk away from them because of that? Would you, Wyatt? Do you give a fuck?
No, I mean, some people, for Chick-fil-A, they don't open on Sundays. Some people don't go to Chick-fil-A because they don't agree with, their politics. But I mean, you're talking about a very small amount of people.
Really small.
And I think that applies to what you're saying here as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't go to Chick-fil-A because I think they have shit waffle fries.
During the first.
I don't care about their politics.
During the first decade of the 2000s, I forget what year it was. So that's sad, but they ranked. They said approximately 75% of internet traffic was porn related. 75% of internet traffic.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Verizon. I'm Yahoo. Whoever the fuck was in charge of that decision, I don't walk away from it. I hire more people to police that shit better. It's just amazing to me. And again,
or develop the technology to do it. You know?
Yeah.
But this walks back to that vocal minority. As I said, it goes back to that. Verizon can't be associated with that because the vocal minority might get up in arms about it. The vocal Christian minority or the vocal, social minority, these SJW. It's amazing to me what they'll do. But I think Pornhub's going to save everything. I don't know how many people will flood back to Tumblr. World. We've had enough time to get set up on other sites.
Some people might. I mean, there's still people there, so maybe. Yeah. But I mean, still, I don't think it's going to cost them that much, and it's not going to cost them that much to run and maintain. So, I don't know. I don't think it's a problem for them.
No. I don't know. I don't. That's the only thing that makes me, wonder if Pornhub will actually follow through with it, from the simple standpoint that I don't know that there's enough user base that will come back now that, like I said, many have found a home in other places. There were just so many different places. Dude, come over to us. We'll take your porn. We'll take your fucking porn. We won't care. And of course, the funny thing is
how the free market's supposed to work, right?
Right. But
that's how it's supposed to work.
Ironically enough, MeWe, which is where a lot of Tumblr users started migrating to, constantly on MeWe now you see, like, if you go on to pages and into groups, you'll see them hollering, no child pornography, no young, none of this. We'll ban, because no matter what the fuck MeWe says, that is still going to be an issue because of course,
it's illegal, right? So I mean, of course, they should get rid of it.
Of course, it makes you wonder if that doesn't mean that they won't go the way of whatchamacallit, the Tumblr as well. Is that the kind of thing that will? I thought this was kind of funny. This picture, I pulled it up in the wrong program, but do you see that?
Not yet. I'm sure I will in a moment.
Look on the stream, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was just a meme I saw. Tumblr.
That's funny.
Right?
You pulled it up in Paint too. That's funny.
I know. It's the last program I was using because I do work with that when I'm doing editing. Sometimes. Sure.
That's funny. I like that. I hope we don't get taken down now because you put a boobie on screen.
There's no proof that's a boob. Do you see a nipple?
Nope, I sure don't.
Prove it's a boob then. I mean,
if anything, we'll just say that she identifies as a man, and so that is a man's boob, and that is perfectly acceptable on YouTube. Did you hear about that? That actually worked on Facebook to get like some woman's picture reinstated. And yes, Midget B, he does spend over 9,000 hours in MS Paint.
No,
old
no, I don't
meme.
think it's 9,000 hours. I don't
No,
think
it's a really old meme.
yeah, yeah,
It's an ancient internet meme.
yeah. So it just kind of falls on deaf ears. All right.
I
Um,
heard it.
yeah. Well, you would. Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's the beer talking.
the one beer. In fact, how's that margarita? It looks like it was delicious.
It was,
Hell yeah,
and it made it through the whole show. It's sad.
it did.
I should have had two.
Yeah,
But anyway, so that's the happenings. That's the shit this week.
that is.
There's some shit this week. It's just some shit. It's just shit.
It's all
It's just crazy shit. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's got me curious as to how next week's going to play out. There's a lot of irons in the fire right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Because we won't shut our fucking borders and keep our nose out of everybody else's business.
Right.
It's a simple thing to do.
Apparently not. Apparently
If
it's
somebody
not.
would just build a wall.
I know, right?
So Wyatt, man, it was fun to have you on here, buddy. I'm glad you came on. It's good to, like I said, it's good to get a peek inside the mind of the younger audience that's out there, the younger people, and see that you're being proactive, you're doing something. So, why don't you take a minute and give a shout out for your channel and give us a little something, take us out with some of that.
All right, yeah, my YouTube channel is Roundtable Decision, and I'll just give a brief description of the videos I've done and what I have planned. So I've done a video on the United Nations about my input of how effective the United Nations really is. I've done a video on happiness and the philosophical standpoint of like what is happiness. And right now, I have a video about propaganda, what I'm in the middle of making, as well as another video on the superhero movies, on if how much longer they'll be around, essentially. So I'm working on both of those videos now and hope to have them out soon. But they probably won't be out within the month because of exams. But oh well. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at RoundtableIB, and then I have some other accounts. But if you just go to my YouTube channel, which is Roundtable Decision, everything's linked there to follow at social medias, and I have a Discord as well, and the channel link is in there. So
Make
Awesome.
sure and throw those in our Discord, and I'll make sure and plug them into the links on our show.
Yeah, I'll put them in the
show
description.
so that we have those there. I have one other quick question for you. I know you're in high school. You're a senior at this point. Is that correct?
yes, I'm a senior.
You have plans to go to college?
I do, yes.
And do you have any plans to keep from being indoctrinated into, as what was it Midget B called it, to the Marxist
Marxism Factory,
the
yeah.
Marxism Factory?
I think that's what it's
do you
called.
have some plans to like protect yourself from the social justice chaos that seems to be rampant in colleges now?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just staying informed, and listening to YouTubers like yourself and other YouTubers, and just having that other perspective out there. Because as long as you know that there's more than just that what's being preached to you, it's hard to fall into the trap, so to speak. Because I'm fully prepared to go into the university because I know at some point I'm going to experience that narrative. Because you have the statistic of the college professors, which is like less than a third, I think it is, who are conservative, and the rest are liberal
Yep.
SJWs, for lack of better words. So it's like, I think I've prepared myself mentally for it, and that's the main thing, really.
Well, that's good. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's definitely the smart thing to do. Well, I wish you luck with that, and hopefully that you can be one of the people that helps, I don't know, spur the discussions and spur some sort of, I don't know, mental health for these fucking whack jobs. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Is that not appropriate? But again, thank you for coming on the show.
Definitely.
I enjoyed having you as part of this conversation. John, we've had a pretty decent conversation tonight.
Yeah.
Are there places where people can find us?
Nope.
Awesome.
No, I'm just kidding. Right down below, we've got our Twitter handle. That's the Gen Gap P, and we've got the link to our Discord server. So click that, join now, and make sure you subscribe and like and all that kind of stuff.
And you never know when we might bring you on the show.
We might, probably not though.
Well, we
But we
like to
might.
bring some people on.
Yes, some people.
People with microphones.
Usually, yes.
You got to have a microphone. All right,
Right.
folks, we're going to get the hell out of here. If you like what you're hearing, like John said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell people to get on here and watch us because, we want to build that user base. We want more people taking an active part in these discussions because without discussion, you don't get to the fucking solution. And, it's more voices in the conversation, I think, will lead to the solutions that we need. Wyatt, thank you. John, thank you. Folks out there in the audience, thanks for being here. And we will catch you again on Monday night when we have our regular Shooting the Shit episode. That's at 9 p.m.
Yep.
And then we'll be bouncing back here again next Friday at 8:30, hopefully with more madness to talk about. So until then, have a good time, folks, and keep the peace.
Yep, see you guys.